excited to see that a lot of people are interested in learning what we've got going on and what's going to be the future for permitting within Pinellas County BDRS. If you are here, it's because you want to learn about Pinellas County's new digital plan room, in addition to our existing Acela system. And this is the external user first look and training for our new program. Start off with some seminar niceties. Michelle, if you're not recording, which you are, a recording of this will be available online. You'll get links to those at the end, so you'll be able to watch us over and over again to your heart's content. And that way you can remind yourself of why you're doing this or when you need to do that. I think we had everybody's microphone muted as they came in. So if you're not muted, please mute yourself. That way we could keep the ball rolling without too many interruptions and dogs barking and babies crying. Camera use is optional. I'll leave that up to each individual user. Usually we experience better quality if it is off, just because we're not pouring a bunch of data through the system. But please feel free to choose for yourself. We have a chat available. You can see that people have already started throwing chat questions in. We'll answer those as we're going through. I don't want to interrupt for every single question. If there's something that needs to be brought up that's going to be for the good of the group, then we could do that. But please throw your questions in the chat during. And then we'll have time at the end for some questions. Again, if there's anything that's for the good of the group. Otherwise, we'll try and take those offline and address those later. First thing we want to do is just a welcome message from our director, Kevin McAndrew.
Thank you, Dane, and good morning again. And on behalf of our entire ePermit Hub team, welcome to this pre-launch customer training session. My name is Kevin McAndrew. I'm the director of BDRS, and it's my privilege to have the opportunity to share a couple of important messages with you. Firstly, thank you for taking your time out of your workday to participate in this session. I want to emphasize that launching ePermit Hub is of the highest priority to the county, with the overarching goal of making your experience and the customer experience associated with permitting an enhanced one. From the initial filing of a permit, through any resubmission if required, right through the issuance of a permit, is you'll see this is all about convenience, flexibility, and a simplified permit process. We're confident here at BDRS that leveraging this technology will benefit our entire customer base, whether you're a contractor, a licensed contractor, a developer, an architect, an engineer. You're going to see more meaningful reviews, particularly with the incredible capabilities of the digital plan room, simultaneously reviews. And I would imagine on your side, we are confident that we will be delivering more expeditious permits with an improved turnaround time. We're really pleased with the turnout. Dane had said we had 78 registered participants. And I can't emphasize thanking you again for your participation this morning, because ultimately your proficiency in using this technology is critical and integral to the success of ePermit Hub. So Dane, I'm pleased to turn it back over to you to get us rolling.
All right, thank you, Kevin. So the first is introductions. I didn't introduce myself for a reason, because there's a lot of people who work around this, both on the Acela side and on the digital plan room side, the ePermit Hub side. So from Pinellas County, we have Michael Hauser, who is our project technical coordinator, former plans examiner. he's moved around and is now head of all of our technology concerns. Layla Carradine, which I think I spelled her name correctly. She is our operations manager and has been working for the county for several years doing permitting from the ground up. I am Dane Morris. I am a engineer who reviews commercial, residential, site plans, building permits, et cetera, et cetera. From ePermit Hub, Seth, who I don't think is here today, but Seth Axhelm. So there may be some issues with people joining us online. Sorry about that. Seth Axhelm, who is the head of the ePermit Hub group over there. He's not joining us today. We have Melissa Chiang, I hope I pronounced your name correctly, and Tony Hernandez. These are the big technology and customer support people who have worked with us through this process. There's only a couple more slides. Don't worry about it. We'll get into the meat here in a second. And here's the agenda for today. We want to go through just a generic sign-on for the Pinellas County Access Portal. I think 60% of you already have an account with us. So you're 60% of the way there for sure, probably farther on. We'll discuss about the available records and just walking through a little bit of that. We'll step through the creation of those records. For those of you who have been doing that online already, it's relatively straightforward and it doesn't really change. For those of you who are going to be creating off of our new records, it's going to be new for you for sure. If you've been submitting things via paper downstairs, then you won't be doing that the same way anymore. We'll go through how to upload your plan sets, reviewing and responding to any issues that your permits come across regarding code relations throughout the process, grabbing, downloading, printing. Well, I won't teach you how to print, but downloading the approved plans, paying those fees, and then, excuse me, addendums. We're calling them addendums. They're revisions and supplements to existing permits. Addendums is a little broader sweeping because things in the future will be changing contractors, adding contractors, et cetera, et cetera. Those will be handled later on. So now, as I promised, we will get out of the presentation mode and go into the sign-in mode. So the first thing is a link to the access portal. If you go to the pinellas.gov website, you could search for Pinellas County Access Portal. You could search for Digital Plan Room. It will give you several links. It will give you several links. Sorry, it will give you several links to get to the access portal. I have it memorized, so I don't worry about doing links. If you don't already have a login for this, again, I think 30% of you don't. There are other sessions available. If you go to do a search for Digital Plan Room, you will see that we have already, excuse me, we have a getting started, and it goes through the instructions and instructions and videos for creating an account, connecting your license, and creating an application already available on there. We're going to bypass a lot of that because, again, it's better for the group if we move forward past it. Once you have your account, you can sign yourself in, and as long as my password is correct, you will see throughout this whole day or this whole morning that this is running a little slower than we would like. This is a test environment right now. Things are expected to run a little slow. So bear with us. The actual production environment will not act like this. When you log in, you will have a bar at the top. It'll give you some more instructions and help as far as how to do things, any announcements that we may have, like systems acting slow or payments being an issue or something like that. collections, if you create them, you can create collections of all of the permits that you've applied for or specific ones. I have one of everything that I've done in Tierra Verde, for example. Is a really neat feature that Acela has. You can lump your permits together. Reports, which is kind of generic right now, but we'll be building that out in the future. And then the account management. This is where you will be able to change your password, change your security question, change your email address, though we don't recommend doing that, adding licenses, adding additional contacts to your records, adding delegates. Again, I'm not going to go through any of this stuff today. That is going to be, those videos are already available online for you to peruse. Since we're looking at building records right now, the first thing I click is build up at the top. This will take you to only your building records. So this is a list of only building records that I have created as part of my account. Through here, you could do a further detailed search. You could schedule inspections on your permits. You can apply for a new one. If you're someone who does applications through our other departments, development review services, for example, environmental management, fertilizers, planning, you can access all your applications there as well. So I thought it would be of benefit to at least go through a couple of these items here, just for ease of access for the future. Today, we want to apply for a permit. So we are going to go ahead and start doing that. Apply for a permit. I think you saw that again from the home page. Let me just go back there. If you scroll down to the specific section you're looking for, which is building, you can apply for a permit straight there. It takes you to the same place. This message shouldn't change, but it may change periodically, so you kind of want to pay attention to it. Every now and then we add a new municipality that we have contracted the building reviews for. So pay attention to that. If there's a new municipality, they should be letting you know, or we reach out to you. But sometimes this list changed, so you may want to just read through there. The disclaimer, I've probably read this a couple hundred times, so I'm not going to read through it now, but I suggest that you do so before you apply for your permit. I can't imagine that it's going to change on the daily, but you never know. Make sure you check that you have read and accepted those terms. Can you look into that, Michael? I'm going to continue application. The first page is select a license. Depending on which permit you're going to apply for, this will be required or not required. As you can see here, a valid license type must be selected in order to apply for express building permits. Express building permits are not changing. They are done the same way online. They will be done the same way online as they are right now. I'll step through that a little bit here shortly, but if you are applying for those express building permits, you will have to choose a license to create that express permit. If you're creating a new permit, and I'll show you what that means as well, then you don't have to choose it at the beginning. It's recommended. That way it's always attached to your license, but you will not have to do that. They will be required prior to the permit being issued, but they will not be required prior to or as part of the application process. If you are a homeowner or a contractor who wants to do his own homeowner permits, proper verification must be presented in person per that Florida statute. There's a link right here at the beginning for the affidavit. We already require that affidavit. You can get that straight from here and continue on. I'm going to say none applicable here because I'm not going to use my mobile home license to apply for a new commercial permit today, maybe some other time. Click continue application. And here is what our new permit build out looks like. Again, the express building permits are the same express building permits that we've been doing for several years now. They change every now and then, depending on the building official and the Florida statutes at the time. But if you're already applying for those express building permits, your roofs, your change outs, those sorts of things, those are still available. They're still done almost the exact same way as they were before. Most of those don't require any plan review, so they don't go through the plan room. That's why they're a separate entity. Everything else is everything else that we do. And you can see all the different types here. If we go back to the digital plan room page and scroll down, we already have a list of permit types and subtypes as a little more explanation as to what each of these different ones are. Again, it's fairly straightforward. A residential aluminum structure is a residential aluminum structure. That includes canopy, screen rooms, pool enclosures, mobile home accessory packages, and so on and so forth. The commercial ones are almost exactly the same. They've got their commercial twist on them, obviously. But again, those permit types are pretty self-explanatory as far as I'm concerned. You can decide differently if you want to, but I think you'll be able to find the permit that you're looking for when you're going through here. I'm going to do a commercial new today. It's one of the more complex ones, and it's got the most stringent document requirements, so it's going to give you a little more flavor of what is the ultimate requirements. Things are going to be easier and have less requirements depending on what you select. And as soon as I select commercial new construction, the first thing I see is the document submission requirements. These documents are going to be required or informational or notices, and that will be explained here. So for example, a geotechnical report. This document is required when the parcel is in a FEMA flood zone VE. A habitat permit application will be required for commercial new construction. Flood zone applications, they are required if the parcel is in a FEMA zone. Private provider documentation. If you're using a private provider for plan review or an inspection, we will still need those Florida statute required documents for that application. A survey. Building plans, signed and sealed. Pay special attention to these names. We'll get to it later. And as we scroll down through here, we can see all of the requirements or the informational or the notices for the document submission requirements that go with each permit type. If I say I'm going to do a residential fence and wall, it has a similar but not the same set of requirements. For example, homeowner's affidavit may be required. If it's a homeowner builder, it will be required, but it may be required. But it depends on selections that you make further on down the screen or further on down the application. So I'm going to go back to, and again, if you want to go through it and click each of these, you'll notice that it changes every single time. I won't belabor that at the moment because we'll see a little bit more of that here later. So like I said, I'm going to do a commercial new construction. It's important to note at the beginning that other than the document requirements and some of the fields that you have to fill in later on down the application, almost as everything is exactly the same in the plan room as far as uploading plans, reviewing requirements, reviewing issues, uploading revised plans. Everything is exactly the same for every application, like I said, with the exception of some data entry at the very beginning. I'm going to continue with this commercial application. The first thing it needs to know is where I am. So there's a couple of different things to notice here. First, I skipped it, but I'll say it right here. This asterisk, I'll zoom in one more click. This red asterisk means that this is a required field. It means that it has to be filled out before you click the continue application button down here. In fact, if I click it now, it will give me a bunch of errors. Cannot validate parcels in Pinellas County jurisdiction. Please contact Aegis for help. We're not going to need to do that now. But if I don't have these fields filled out, it will not let me continue with the application. There's a couple of ways to look for a parcel. Again, this is where am I information. You could search by street. You could search by parcel. I don't think you could search by owner. No, you can't. You could search by street or you could search by parcel. I like to just put in a little bit of the information here, just enough to get me into the right place. Click the search button. And it will do a search of our property appraisers database to try and find the parcel and address that I did a search for. Again, please bear with us while we're on this site because the testing environment is always a little slow. And there we go. So now it knows that I'm looking for, if it's an address that has more than one, you know, if there's a bunch of poinsettia streets within Pinellas County, it'll ask, do you mean Clearwater? Do you mean Largo? Do you mean unincorporated? So you're going to need to know where you are in the world in order to verify the address that you have. But I selected a place that has only one address. It's our wastewater treatment facility, or our water treatment facility up off of Alt 19. But it's pretty straightforward if you know that you're in Clearwater or Largo or St. Pete. It populates the parcel number for me, so I don't have to know that. And then it also populates the owner. You can't change any of this information. This is pulled directly from the property appraiser's website. If it's a recently sold or a recently bought property, this name may not show the name of the person you are contracted with. That's okay. There will be supporting documentation later on in the permit process to make sure that we relate those two names together. It usually doesn't take very long for the property appraiser to update their database and for that to get pushed to us. But if it just happened yesterday, it may not be correct. I'm going to continue with the application. This time it didn't stop me because I filled in all the required fields. So here, depending on your application type, these are going to look different. A lot of them are the same, but I don't want to say that everything is going to look exactly like this. It should look similar. A lot of these fields are required for all of our different application types, but not all of them. So I'm going to go down through here and put in my information as I know it. Anywhere where there's a gray drop down, it means there's no different subtypes in here. I clicked on that commercial, or sorry, I talked about that aluminum structure before. Aluminum structure has subtypes: canopy carport, screen room pool enclosure, mobile home accessory package. That will be here. This is a commercial new building, so all it is a commercial new building. Occupancy type. And then some more value information and work area information. And I'm just putting some fun numbers in here. We are not going to do private provider review or inspections. Yes, there is a site plan number, and I know that site plan number. If you don't know your site plan number, I suggest you do not check that box. That is Pinellas County Development Review Services site plan number. Like I said, if you don't know that number, I suggest you don't check that yes, check that no, and you won't have to enter in that piece of information. And then down here, I suggest, because it'll be easier when you're searching for things, that you enter in an actual project name, because it'll show up on that list that I was showing you earlier, and I could go back to that real quick to separate your permits out. you're probably more familiar with, oh yeah, I'm doing that commercial new over there at the Walmart, but I'm doing that commercial aluminum structure down at the Toyota. You know, you might know that. I don't know that, so I like putting project names in there. Construct a office building. I'm going to click this help box here. I don't know that we've seen very many of them yet, but anywhere where there's a question mark with a circle around it, that is a help box, and you can pop that out and see more information. Any additional description of work information that you can put in here is only going to be more and more helpful to us as we go through this. Having the types and subtypes already gets us really nailed down to what each individual application is for. But having a little more in this description of work is going to help us. So whatever you can put in there is fantastic. We don't need you to write War and Peace in here though. So I'm just going to say construct a new office building and then click continue application. Again, as long as I've filled in all those asterisks, then it should let me continue. And it has. So now we're at the contact information. So we've gone through the location, we've gone through the permit information, now we're in the contact information. One contact is required in order to apply for a permit. Somebody has to get the emails about what's going on with this. As you can add as many contacts as you want, the owner, the attorney, the agent, whoever you want to. You could click the add new and add whomever you want to it. The owner, for example, if the owner wants to receive emails, then we can send them emails. So that's the other important information to know. The vast majority of the people on this contact list could be receiving emails about the application. So keep that in mind as you're filling this out, but everyone who should be notified about this needs to be added to your contact list. I have an account which already has myself as a contact, and I have several other people as contacts, and that's why I have the select from contact list on my account. Yours, it may automatically populate, but as you can see, I have 3 different contacts in my account, and I have to select one of them. I'm going to select myself here and continue. It asks me what type of contact I'm going to be for this record. People may be different types of contacts for different records, depending on who they are and what they're doing. And then I hit continue. And it will add me to the contact list for this. Again, you can add a new contact. You can add as many contacts as you would like. I don't know that there's any technical limitation to that. There may be. Have fun trying to find that out. Licensed professionals. As I said before, a licensed professional is not required to apply for a permit. It is required for a permit to be issued, but unless it's a homeowner, but it is not required in order to apply for one. I would suggest that if you're a contractor, go ahead and add your license. As you can see, I only have 1 license added to my account, so it automatically populated that in there without going through the selection dialog. But I would suggest go ahead and doing that now. That way we don't have to, none of us have to worry about it later. If you know your subs, you could go ahead and start adding your subs right now. There's a lookup feature. You could click lookup. If you know their license number, if you know their first and last name, name of business, whatever, let's just do this for fun. There are no Morrises as licenses. That's interesting. How about Smiths? I didn't test this before. You'll have to trust me that works. You could add any licensed contractor that's registered with the PCCLB as a contractor to this list. You may want to add those separately, talk to them before you do so, or submit the sub list to us, whichever works best for you. But that will be required prior to the issuance of the permit. I'm going to continue this application. This is where I get to review all the information that I've put in so far. Commercial new construction, that's what I applied for. It's nice and bold up at the top. My address, my parcel number, my owner, and then all the custom fields that I filled out. If you want to edit any of these, you could go ahead and edit those, but I did them perfectly, so I won't need to do so right now. My project name, my description of work, all of that stuff is available right there. Here's another certification statement. Read through that. Again, I'm not going to read that because I've probably read it too many times already. I'm going to pretend like it's an Apple device and just check it and move on. Again, make sure you check this box. It won't let you continue without that, and it dates it today's date when you do so. I'm going to continue my application. And every application is going to have upfront fees for the minimum commercial residential plan review, the technology fee, the Florida statute requirements of us sending money to the state when we review plans, and any other fees that go along with these. Your list may be larger, your list, it probably won't be larger. Your list may be larger, it may be smaller, but these are the base minimum fees prior to the plan review, prior to the application being created. I'm going to continue this. This will take us to the payment adapter. As you can see, I've done this a couple of times, so my information is already filled in here. A couple of things you have to put in over and over again is your email address, and you'll notice that if it doesn't think I'm doing it right, it keeps it red. Once I get to the place where it thinks I've done it correctly, it will change back. You could try this card number, but I almost guarantee it won't work for you going forward. I'm going to go ahead and get this guy paid. This is an very important message to read. Do not refresh or close your browser when you're doing this. Payments always been tricky. It's tricky whether you're on it. Well, Amazon makes it easy because they've already probably charged you, but payments are always tricky. They're going through a ton of different connectors through the internet to make this work. Don't push the back button. Don't refresh your browser. Don't close your browser. Maybe you want to go get a sandwich or a cup of coffee or something while it's doing that. But don't mess with the browser once it's trying to make a payment. Things get charged twice. They don't get charged at all. The payments don't go through. That's not just us. That's everywhere on the internet. I tend to not touch things once I push the pay button because I don't know what WoW is going to charge me if I do anything differently. So now I've made my payment. I have entered in all of my custom data. I've told it who I am. I've told it where I'm trying to do work. And now it is telling me that I have an application that has been submitted. You'll notice we haven't done anything with plans yet. We'll do that here in a second. But this at least creates a record that we will have access to help you through the rest of the process if you need it. Your record number is this. This is pretty straightforward, I feel like. Building, commercial, new, the year, and record number 27. Those of you who have been permitting with us for 2 years know that we recently changed to CBP, to 2, blah, blah, blah. Those of you who have been permitting with us for more than 2 years, you'll know they used to be CB 18 and then 4 numbers or 5 numbers after that. So you get to learn a whole new numbering system. It's going to help us. It's going to help you. I think it's a lot clearer for everybody what's going on when these are going to take effect. The old numbers will still be the old numbers. The new numbers will be the new numbers. So those won't get confused at any point in time. Here you can print a receipt. You can upload plans, and then you could view record details. What I also haven't told you yet, I described it here a minute ago, is that now we will be seeing emails for a lot of the portions of the application. So I have just pulled up my email for the application that I just submitted. You can see that it just came through. This will be the standard format for all emails that you receive via the communications that you receive from us via email for all of your records. It tells you right up at the top. This is the address, the parcel ID, the application, your record number is there again. It gives you links to go straight into our online portal to upload your plans. If you need a tutorial for how to submit plans and supporting documents, that is there. And then again, it repeats your record information and then gives more contact information below. Several points during the application, you will receive similar emails. Let's see, I have the fee invoiced. That one's the old one. That's less fun. That one's the old one. That's less fun. I'll show you another one when we get further down. But these will have links depending on what portion of the application process you're in, whether you need to upload revised plans, what issues and conditions were attached to the permit, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll close this and keep going. The next step is to upload plans and documents. And again, we've gotten through the custom fields that have to do with a new commercial building. Those would be different for a residential building. I showed before how the requirements were showing up as soon as I select what permit type I'm choosing. Those requirements are repeated here. Just again, a general reminder of what's going to be required for that. Now we're into the portion where we're uploading the plans for that. If we hit continue, you could type a name for a description here if you want to. It's not required, it's not necessary. There's that little circle with a question mark inside of it. It said almost exactly what I just said. Hit continue. And if you've been through permitting through Tampa or Hillsborough, this should look really familiar to you. The layout may change, the requirements may change, but the process is pretty well the same. Here you have the option of either dragging and dropping files or browsing for them on your computer. Or if they're on a USB drive, you can look at your USB drive. And again, the requirements are repeated here. It's important to note the name of these things because there are a couple of different kinds of building plans. Building plans that are signed and sealed, and by that I mean digitally signed and sealed by a licensed professional, an architect. Surveyors have their own electronic, engineers have their own electronic. There's also building plans that aren't required to be signed and sealed based on the Florida statutes. So pay special attention to the names of these things because they are similar, but they are not the same. And it will make a difference when you're applying for this and attaching these. So I'm going to click browse, and I already have an application here just to show you what's going on. Click the whole thing and click open, and it populates all the files that I plan on putting in here in this list. And then it's up to me to say what these are. So this is my building plans signed and sealed. Again, I'm selecting signed and sealed because I'm fairly certain these are signed and sealed, and they match the list over here. You can attach whatever documents you want to these to support your application, but if they're not required, you'll know that they're not required, but it's still an option here. I think the energy forms, yes, they are required on this one. The flood zone application is not required on this one, but I'm going to go ahead and put it in here. Just as an example that you don't need it in order to do it. I am not going to attach the geotech to this. The habitat application, that was a requirement over there to the right, so I'm attaching that. Now, I just did two things that are called building plans signed and sealed. A question we often get is, what if we have different professionals doing different portions? A set of structural plans by a structural engineer, or details, plans and or details by a structural engineer. The architect did some of the things. There's a separate professional who did the plumbing or the mechanical or the electrical or whatever. So selecting those as duplicates, it should combine those things together for us, and we don't have to worry about it from then on. This one doing, hopefully because it'll break, but once I've selected everything that I know is on this list, again, I may not have stressed this at the time, this document is required, and that's what the little no sign means. This document is recommended. I attached it because I have one, but it's not required. A notice of commencement isn't required until the first inspection, but it is recommended. The earlier, the better. That way we don't have to stop inspections from going through. Product approval lists, again, they're not required for this one. They're not required for intake, but it may be required as part of the permit process. The right-of-way utilization permit application, I know this one isn't required, but it may be required. Some of these things we don't know until we see the application and where it is and what it is. Some of the things we know pretty well for sure, and that's why this is the difference between the informational, the recommended, and the required. So I'm going to click upload and validate because I hit all of them, and you can watch it as it goes through and validates. Now this means that it is validating that the PDF that you have tried to upload meets the requirements that we set for those particular selections that we made. So the first thing to notice is it checked off all the required documents because I attached them and because they meet the requirements. I've attached one extra one, specifically this survey, because I knew it wasn't signed and sealed because I wanted this error. And it says that it was rejected. And up here, it tells me why. One or more files has been rejected. You cannot continue with the review package if there are rejected files. This one, for example, the file was not signed. That's why I said it's important to know or to select the correct application type when you see this. Survey signed and sealed means it is a signed and sealed, a digitally signed and sealed survey by a licensed professional, meeting the requirements of the Florida Administrative Code that deals with surveyors. This one was not. I wanted to do this just to show you that that happens, that is going to happen, and that's what it looks like. There's more information here, and then I'll take us back to the plan room because we have some guidance down here, and we will be shortly, hopefully before the 5th, but shortly uploading a guide that we have as far as how to, when, where, as for digital signatures on electronic documents. But these are the Florida Administrative Code that discusses those for engineers, architects, and surveyors. So I'm going to come down here and delete my file because, well, I can edit it. If I wanted to still include this, I could call it survey copy. There are some applications that a survey isn't required to be signed and sealed, so we have a survey copy. And this really just highlights the difference between something that we called signed and sealed and something that we didn't call signed and sealed. And now this is validated because it's under survey copy. So that's an important note to keep an eye out for, just in case something goes wrong at this portion of the application. I am now going to start processing my files. And this is now taking all of the documents that we have uploaded, running through them, scanning them, splitting them apart, putting them in a nice web form for everybody to see. It shouldn't take that long because I chose a pretty slim set of plans, but this may take a long time, or it may take no time, depending on the complexity of the application and the number of pages that you have, and the file size. Frankly, the file size also has a lot to do with this. I had hoped to show an email here because that usually happens here. It's important to note, this can take several minutes to complete. You can navigate away from this page. It's not like the payment page. It's sitting there processing it back behind the scenes. There will be an email that comes across when it says it has been processed, because we know that this can take some time depending on how big the file is. So I could close this. I'm not going to, but I could close this browser, go have my sandwich, go get my cup of coffee, and come back tomorrow if I wanted to, and continue on through the process. And now it's complete. All the messages have gone away. And here is that email that says it has completed. So the plans or documents recently uploaded have been processed into sheets and are ready for you to finalize the plan room. So as soon as that was done, it let me know. So you'll know immediately when that is done. I'm going to click continue. So like I said, the plan room was processing all of these files and going through and looking for a couple of key things. Title blocks with numbers in them. We have set aside specific prefixes for sheet numbers. They are recommended. They are not required. But if you put them in, or your licensed professional puts them in, it will make whoever is uploading these, it'll make their lives easier going forward. Since ePermit Hub put this set together, they did a good job of titling these in the correct, or in one of the locations that eHub looks at. So it has already filled out the number and the name of each of these sheets. You can also see here the name of the sheet. So this, or the name of the PDF, I'm sorry. This is from the initial permit set. This is sheet A0101, the ground floor plan level. So it's already populated all of these. If we go back up to this beginning, this one, it's a survey. It's just a generic survey. A lot of times they won't have sheet numbers. They won't have sheet titles. Bookmarks in Adobe Acrobat or Reader, if you put bookmarks into that, the plan room will find those bookmarks and it will try to populate this information for you so you don't have to type it in. So get in touch with your licensed professionals and say, hey, start making your PDFs with titles and names and bookmarks so that it makes my life easier when I'm trying to upload these plans, or I'll make you start doing it from here on. If you click any of these individual sheets, you'll see a zoom in of that sheet. You can come through here because I don't know what this is called. This is called plot plan. There's not a sheet number on it. So I'm just going to make up a sheet number. But you'll be able to zoom around the page so you could figure out what it is that was missing something, or just to verify that it is what you think it is. You can go down through each of these if you want to. And it gives you a zoomed in version of where it found that. in our guide or on our website, we will be letting you know what those prefixes are. You know, the P's for plumbing, the A for architectural, the S for structural, the E for electrical. You know, they're fairly standard across all of the permitting and all the professions. I'm going to call this survey, and I'm going to call this generic survey. Because the sheet titles are, sorry, the sheet numbers are important. Not only do they distinguish these sheets from each other, but they will also distinguish when you have revisions, and I'll show that to you here shortly, when you have revisions to these individual sheets. You'll only need to upload those plans that have been revised when you go through your second or third resubmittal of the plans. So as long as my revised plan sheet is named A-01, the plan room will find that and it will try and link these together. It's going to make your life easier for someone who has to upload these plans. It's going to make our lives easier for someone who has to review these plans and track down those revisions. So these are very important and very necessary to make sure that the application moves through nice and smoothly. There's a fun little button up here that it says show only error sheets. You could slide this slider and you'll see that all of my sheets are without errors, and then I can continue on. So once I've named everything, I can click continue. And then again, another review page to review all of the things that I've done. A list of the documents that I've uploaded, the requirements for this, and then I can click finish. And at this point, my review package has been received and it is submitted and waiting for us to process it. So now we have an application. Pinellas County has what we call a deemed complete, or an application intake step for almost all record types. You know, to go through the applications, make sure the correct people have their names on the applications, to go through and make sure that this is indeed a floor plan, to go through and make sure this is indeed a survey, to go through and check the names on the notice of commencement, those sorts of things, just to make sure the application is complete, and that the documents say what the documents are, and then it'll move forward. And you can watch this in a couple of ways. First place is the summary page. It's important to note that this is the plan room summary page. There is an Acela summary page that does, well, it's more like a processing page, but I'll show you that here in a second, that show the workflow steps and not necessarily showing the disciplines, which is what we're seeing here. So as it goes through the process, you will see issues, conditions, and notes. I'll explain those here in a minute, for each of the different disciplines for each of the applications. The colors will stay the same for zoning, utilities, site, right-of-way, plumbing, mechanical, et cetera, et cetera. So you'll get used to seeing those different colors. You may not have an issue or a condition or a note for any of these disciplines, but it'll show on a list here, and I'll show that here in a minute. And then these will also populate once we get further to the application process. That's a summary. There's an issues list, which once there are issues, it will have a list of issues, conditions, and notes. I'll get to that here in a minute. I'm going to click over to, oh, that's awesome. Bear with me here. So this is how Acela looks now. We're not necessarily inside of the plan room portion, but the same information is here. Your application information, your parcel information, the name and the description of my project. All of my applicant information is there. There's a processing status down through here. If you like to watch it as it goes through its steps, you can't see that in the plan room portion of the summary. But this is another way to look for that. You can see that we're in application intake. We were awaiting plans just a minute ago. We are receiving plans now. This will get populated as we continue moving through the process. So you could sort of watch it here if you want to watch it there. So now I'm going to move on to reviewing issues and conditions. I staged this so that we wouldn't have to fill those in. So this is more or less the same application. I think I attached a couple of different documents to it, but it's more or less the same application, the same construction, and more or less the same plans. But I went ahead and added some issues and conditions so that we could see those. So this has already been through a review cycle. Everybody has completed their review, whatever that review was. And now I have a list. As you can see, this is populated with the status chosen by that particular discipline, and whether they added an issue, a condition, or a note. And as I said over here, this has also been populated based on what was done for that application. And this is where we get into the meat of what's the difference between an issue, a condition, and a note. So I clicked on issues here. This way I will only see the issues. Now, issues are things that have to be resolved or have to have plan revisions or both prior to continue on with the application. You'll see that I entered in a building clear width ADA accessibility comment to this one for building, and I added an overhang setback encroachment. These were fake. I just threw them in there for the application for zoning. These are the only two disciplines that had any issues with this. That's why I could only see two. Again, issues keep the application from continuing forward. There is a required revision that needs to be made in the plan room in order to continue processing the application. So your next submittal will be dependent upon what these issues are. Conditions, and if you remember, back when I was on the summary page, if you don't remember, I'll go back because I already don't remember. Environmental said approved with conditions and added a condition to it. Now, a condition may require a plan change, but it doesn't necessarily have to require a plan change. It was approved, so the plan is okay, but there is a condition, and that condition is construction requires inspection. That's typical. There's a habitat permit that goes along with almost every single commercial for sure, but most applications that go through here, there's a silt fence and tree barricade inspection that goes along with. There are notes, and I don't think I added any notes to this, which I probably should have. And what this does is it lets us add notes to the plans. Again, it's an approved condition, but there are notes added to the plans. I could have done the habitat inspection as a note, but because it is technically a condition and it shouldn't be issued because of that, I didn't add it as a note, but that could just as easily be a note. So if we add notes and want to approve the plan based on those notes being on the plan, then those notes will be on the plan. I, for example, will approve a new single-family residential infill lot once I've drawn swales on the plans. That's a standard note that I will put on the plans. I could call it a condition if I wanted to, but it doesn't necessarily require a plan revision, and that's important. There's a couple of interesting, fun things you could do here just to make your life easier as far as a contractor who maybe needs to send these back over to the architect or the structural engineer. You could create a report of the issues. Now, what this will do is just take all of the issues and make a nice report out of it. It shouldn't take that long because I only have a couple of issues. But this will combine this into a PDF that's downloadable and shareable that will show you exactly what those issues were. It only prints out the pages that had issues on them. So that permit set had like, I don't know, a dozen pages or so to go along with it, but I only put issues on 2 of those pages. And again, that was only the issues report. And if you have a PDF product like Adobe, once you hover over that area, and you'll see that this area was bubbled in because it was a door, and I love using ADA on doors. And then I attached that comment to, to that markup that I did. So you'll hover over this, you'll see what that issue is, and then you'll be able to address it accordingly. And then if we scroll down to the next page, we'll see the zoning issue that I created. And again, it says zoning by me, overhang setback encroachment. So the issue is pretty straightforward. We're all looking at the same thing. We're all looking in the same place, and we can agree that that's the area that we're talking about. That makes our lives easier. That makes your lives easier. I think going forward, it'll make it so we're all understood better. So that's one report you could create. Like I said, this is a report. You could send this to anybody that you wanted to. That way everyone knows what it is that we're talking about. You could create that same report with conditions. If it's associated with a page, not everything is associated with a page, but you could create that same report. For the issues or conditions or notes that go along with those. And this is taking a minute. And this gives you a report of that condition that I placed on this. As I said, they could either be conditions and issues can either be attached to a page or they could be attached to the permit set entirely. For example, this says attached to and there's nothing here. So I created this condition as an attachment to the whole plan set, not just to one individual page. And here's where I talk about please call in your silt fence and erosion control inspection prior to issuance. So there's a couple of different ways to look at issues and conditions that are going to be useful for the application. You can also do a filter. And notes work the same way, by the way. That's worth mentioning. You can also filter these by the different statuses of those, whether they're open, whether they're in reviewed, answered, accepted, not accepted, or closed. In review means we are reviewing them. Answered means you have answered it. Accepted means we have accepted your response to it, be it response in line or response as a resubmitted page. Not accepted means it did not address the comment that we made, and closed means the issue is closed. I think that's fairly, and open means open, obviously. I think that's relatively straightforward, or you could do it by discipline. So if I only wanted to see the building ones, because I'm only dealing with the building plans, I'm not dealing with the site stuff like the habitat inspection or the zoning issues, then I could just filter and only show those specific items. And since the list is in there, I could come down here and do zoning. And again, I only see the zoning issue there. So there's a couple of ways to go forward. I, for one, like to respond because we're gonna respond to these issues now. We're gonna resubmit plans. I, for one, like to go into these issues and answer them accordingly. You don't have to do that now, and I do that before I upload the plans. You don't have to do that now. You can do that later. You can try and upload the plans first, and then address all the issues. That's up to you. Just know that these issues have to be responded to before the resubmittal can be completed, and it will stop you if you don't. That's why I like to do it first. That way I know that I've addressed those, and then I'll go upload my plans. So I'm going to go in here. And when you click on that issue, let me show that again. When you click on this issue anywhere in this line, it will take you exactly to the page in the plan set with that issue. You'll see the entire description of it. You'll see that it requires modifications to be submitted. There's a checkbox that we have on the inside. We could check that box off or on depending on the requirement. And it shows you the area that I had bubbled in for this issue. Depending on what it is, you're going to see a different bubble. You know, there's polygons, there's circles, there's squares, there's arrows, there's little fly off notes. There's all sorts of different things that we could do as far as reviewing the plans, you know, to help direct you guys to where the issue is. I just used this one as an example. So I could come down here and respond to this. I'll say door opening revised. And I am responding to this issue. So I have answered this issue. I haven't uploaded plans to address that, but I have at least answered it. And like I said, it won't let me continue with the application. It won't let me submit revised plans until I have answered all of these open issues. I'm going to go into the zoning one and do the same thing. Like I said, it takes me to the page where the zoning issue is. I could zoom in on that. And I could see where the issue is. And then I could respond to that issue. Overhang revised. And it's important to, you know, respond to these issues appropriately. Understood, you know, that makes sense. But sometimes how you responded to that or how you revise the plans is helpful. It definitely speeds up the review times for things. You'll notice up here it says all issues have been answered. Click the Uploads tab to submit responses and upload any corrected plans and documents. It should let me go ahead and upload those plans, but I'm going to go ahead and just for completeness, I'm going to take a look at this, see that it's an open condition, and there's no way that I can respond to this as much as I would love to respond to this. Notes are the same way. They'll look almost exactly the same, but at least you get the opportunity to do so. So now we can go through and upload our plans. And again, you're not seeing the part where it stops me because I don't want to see that, but it'll stop you. It'll let you know that you still need to respond to things. So the plan room automatically created a plan review cycle 2 because it knows I need to submit revised plans. I'm going to resume my application here. This is where I upload new plans to address my comments. Again, this is the same we saw earlier. Everything looks almost exactly the same. We don't have the same document requirements because this is a resubmittal, so it won't stop me from continuing my application. But I'm going to go ahead and attach a couple of these. I'm going to call them building plans signed and sealed because that's what they are. Upload and validate. Again, it gave me that same rejected notice because this file is not signed. So it knows that I have selected a building plan signed and sealed, so it rejected that because it's not signed and sealed. I just wanted to show that one more time. I'm going to delete it and I'm going to process. This is the same processing we did before. And this should go much faster. said that, and now it's not. So if I check my emails while we're waiting for this, I will see that, and of course, it finishes as soon as I change tracks here. This is when it received my plans and documents for that application. I was looking for the revisions required email, which I'm not seeing, but several places you will see emails as far as tracking of your application. So that has processed. I'm going to continue here. And this is, again, where the numbering matters for these. So the plan room saw that I have an A102 in my previous plan set. The previous version is on the right. The new version is on the left. It saw the same name, and it's trying to link these two together. Again, this makes it easier for you so that you see which plans were revised, and you'll know that you have the correct plan set or that they were named the same thing. And it's easier for us because it lets us, on the back end, it lets us compare these sheets on top of each other, side by side. You know, old, new with a slider, all that good stuff. It makes our plan review a lot faster when we could see those revisions right next to each other like that. You'll also notice that there was not a previous G105 in the plan set. So this is a new sheet. It's details that I added that were accessibility notes and details. So this is a brand new sheet. There wasn't a previous version of that sheet, and it tells you as much right there. If it says this and you're like, oh, wait a minute, this is just a revised sheet, then if you come in here and call it A101, then it goes and looks for A101 and sets it right next to it. So you'll be able to change these on the fly if there's an issue that you see in that plan set. I'm going to go back to G105. Call this accessibility. Notes, because that's what it's called. This is very handy. This is very, very handy for all of us. So numbering those sheets is important, and naming those sheets for tracking them as we go through bigger and bigger plan sets is going to definitely help everyone going forward. And then I hit continue. And then I get to review. I've only attached one file. I deleted that other one because it wasn't signed and sealed. I just wanted to show that it would break. Here are the issues that I've answered, and you can come through and answer these if you need to. If you need to do that, you need to hit the edit button. This is where it stops you. It says these are still open issues. You need to answer these before you can move forward. And I'm ready to go. So I have finished. And I have resubmitted my review package. So this has gone and has been resubmitted and is waiting. And you can see these issues changed to in review because Pinellas County is now reviewing the responses to those issues and the revisions to the plans as appropriate in order to make a determination on those. And this is the same for plan review cycle 3, plan review cycle 4, plan review cycle 5. No matter how many times you repeat this, it will be the same every single time. The names will change, the sheets will change, the issues may change, but everything's going to look almost exactly the same every single time you do this. So next, we are going to have an approved set of plans. So if we go back to my permits, again, I staged one with an approved set of plans so that we didn't have to worry about going through all that rigmarole in the back end. And here is my issued for that same address. And again, this is where that project name makes sense to put it in there, and the description. Don't use test. It's not helpful at all. I have a million test records and I don't know what any of them are. But this one is issued, so I could go through and look at and download and print off my approved plans. So again, record info, plan room, payments. I could review all my fees and payments. I didn't show that earlier, but for those of you who've done this already, you've already seen that. If we go into plan room, we can go through and review the summary, the issues, the conditions, the notes, but I'm going to go straight to approved. And now I can download my approved set of plans. And this is in a nice handy dandy PDF that I could email, stick on a thumb drive, print out if I need to. Well, you're going to have to print it out because that's a Florida statute requirement that your permit set be on the job site. But how many times you print it is up to you. And then I open this up, and these are my approved set of plans. On the first page, you will see my record number and my address. And then I believe that's the date that I submitted it originally. The first page is the general conditions. If there are any conditions of approval or notes that were attached to the entire record, then they will be on this page. Anything that's attached to a specific page, conditions and notes, they will be on that page. But this one, again, was an environmental condition that we placed on the whole plan set. So this shows on the first page, and that condition, this was the title of that condition, this is the description of that condition that shows here. And if we scroll down, this is the first page of the permit set. We've told all staff, we've told all inspectors that this is what a permit or a site plan or a habitat permit or right-of-way utilization permit that comes through this building, this is what it's going to have on it. So if someone comes out to the site and does not see that, or you email something to one of the staff and does not see this logo with the review for code compliance, with the permit number or site plan number, and the date, they're going to ask you where the approved set of plans is, because this is the approved set of plans. On the first page, we have all the departments that approved it, or that reviewed it, I should say, and or approved it with conditions and the date that they did that. So we'll be looking at this for the first page, and then every sheet thereafter has that watermark on it. So just like the old building stamp that had the the Florida Building Code at the time, every sheet that is a plan will have this on it. The other documents, the energy calculations, the geotechnical report, the stormwater management report, the wetland survey, all those things, they will not necessarily have it if they're not part of the print set, but everything that's part of the plan set will have it. So this is my approved set of plans. I print this off, I shove it in the permit box, and then I mark my changes up on that as I'm going through construction. So that is my approved set of plans. Let's see, how am I doing on time? It is about 5 till. One other thing I want to add right here as we near the end, because I want to leave time for some questions if we have them. Amendments. I talked about amendments earlier. Amendment is a nice broad term that means pretty much anything. So in the future, you'll be able to change contractors, add contractors, et cetera, et cetera. Right now, amendment means revisions or supplements. So if you have a supplement to add to this commercial new construction permit, you will click this amendment button. That amendment button is not available for something that is in review. That's a revision based on a current application in review. That's not an amendment, which is a revision or a supplement after the permit is issued. If you have one, do this online. There's no sense in doing this in the office. You could submit these things online just like you do everything else. You click your amendment because I'm going to revise this commercial plan. And then it asks for some generic project information, done facility, add, oops. I don't know. I want to add another AC unit. Additional AC units to original permit. I don't know what is required for a revision, so I'm just going to pretend like that is. As you can see, all these fields are the same things that we've seen before. That asterisk means that is a required field to be filled out. Increase in job cost, I'm going to say, that's another 10 grand. Again, a question mark within a circle means a help box. Provide any additional information not noticed above. And then hit continue application. And again, I'm revising a currently issued permit. So this way my inspections won't have to stop. I'll just add the things that I need to add. My construction can continue on. And in the meantime, the county can be reviewing this revision that I'm making to the plans or supplement. I have to agree to the certification again, just like any other time. Continue application. And then I'm able to upload plans and documents. And you'll notice that looks exactly like the upload plans and documents button we saw before. Everything is pretty well the same as we're going through the system here. The plan room is going to be exactly, the digital plan room portion of this is going to be exactly the same. You're going to select your, let's do it. You're going to select your review cycle. You're going to select your plans that you need to revise. I'm going to do this one. I'm going to say building plans. None of this has changed. This looks exactly the same as what we've done before. At the end, I'm not going to belabor this, but at the end, it goes through the same plan review process. You'll address issues and conditions and notes. You will get a new approved plan set that includes the revisions that you made, the new sheets, the old sheets that have been revised, anything that has to do with that review package. You'll get a new set of approved plans that you will download, just like this one that we just downloaded. And that pretty well gets us through our agenda for today. I'm hitting almost at 11 o'clock on the nose, so we'll have plenty of time for some questions if we need to answer them going forward. Go here. The next couple of slides are just a summary, a roundup of what we've done and what's happening. This goes online December 5th. That's December 5th of this year, so next week. All new applications that come in after that date will go through the system. The last paper application we're taking in is November 29th at 4 p.m. I think we had those placards printed a few weeks ago. I don't remember exactly when. That notification has been out there that the last paper application we will be taking in is November 29th at 4 p.m. If your application started as paper, then it will end as paper. If your application started as digital, it will end as digital. We won't be swapping old stuff and new stuff unless it's absolutely necessary. There's no real good reason to do that. So keep that in mind as you submit your applications. You've got, what is that, 1 or 2 more days to get those in, or just wait 1 or 2 more days and you'll be able to apply for those online. That process is relatively simple and painless, and it makes it easier for everybody going forward. And then at the end here, I've added some links. Number one is a link to the Access portal. That pinellas.gov/access portal, that takes you to that first sign-in page. I could show you that here in a second. Takes you to that first sign-in page into the Access portal. Digital Plan Room and Acela Guides. That's the other website that I showed you that gives you the links to the YouTube page, the YouTube playlists for almost everything to do with creating an application in Acela, going through the plan room, all of those things. You'll notice that the stuff for the original Acela applications show the old express permits. They're a little bit different, and it won't show the new stuff that has to do with building commercial new, residential aluminum canopy, all of those. But that's what today was for, to show you those things. And this will be available on there once we get it all sorted out and uploaded to it. The permitting guides, these are the same permitting guides that we've had on our website for the past couple of years, I guess. They're going to be revised to address the new application intake process, but you know, the required documents are the required documents. They haven't really changed. Little minor tweaks here and there. That'll be the best information right now. And then, like I said, when we update it, it will be updated accordingly. And then right now we have in mind putting together a post-launch training session. That's because we know not everyone was invited to this, not everyone made it to this, not everyone is part of the application process. So we want to go through our first, couple of weeks of, running into brick walls and finding bugs and seeing what the big questions are, what the big issues are, and then have another training session after we go live to really nail down those questions that need to be answered and broaden the scope of people to go through this sort of training with. We don't know what that is, which is why I'm stumbling on our words. But we will have something scheduled in the future, again, just because we know that what we think is going to happen, it doesn't always happen. The system breaks once people start using it. Not because the system's bad, but just because they use it differently than we expect it to. And we want to address that as much as we can, and then do some retraining and some reach out once we get further on down the road. And that is pretty well the end of the presentation portion of this session.
So Dane, some of the questions we had to do with the site development side, about site submittals, right-of-way submittals. Do you mind kind of showing customers? I think you did it in the beginning, but because the words are cut off, it's kind of a little.
No, that's fine. All of the development review services applications are under develop. So if I click develop, I have an account. I can create an application. And again, you'll notice all of this stuff is the same. The disclaimer probably has different words in it. So read that again. Licenses. I'm glad I went this way because I forgot to say this. Licenses means PCC-LB licenses and/or licenses that we here at BDRS maintain. This does not mean licensed engineers. This does not mean surveyors. This does not mean architects. This means PCC-LB licenses. So if you try to find yourself, if you're a registered engineer, you're not going to find yourself because it's not in there. That's a very important distinction, and I'm sorry I missed that before. No licenses are required for applying for a development review services application. If I click continue, then here they are. This list is not final, so they'll take this as law, but the site plan submittals, the plats, the right-of-way, the habitat permits, the zoning clearances, they're all there. And you may have noticed that the document requirements change. That's why it's more fun to do the DRS stuff sometimes. The document requirements change every time I click on an application. So everything requires some different applications. But once I get into this, I guess I could do this. I spend a minute or two doing this. Every application that comes through here goes through the same process. Before I had to find out where I am. Then I had to give more permit information. Then I needed to say who I am and who the other contacts were on the record. Then I had to upload plans or pay fees, depending on which application it is. So it looks almost exactly the same for every single record type that is BDRS. I'm not going to say the same for code enforcement or air quality or water and navigation because they don't have this implemented. But I can easily say for everything that's going to be available online, this application is almost exactly the same. And I'm flying through this because you've already seen it once. Continue. So this is a tree application. Like I said, the custom fields are different. What kind of permit type determines what questions you're going to be asked as part of this. Reason for request, commercial, new construction. Actually, let's not do that. Tree removal on my property. Let's do that one. I'm going to do a tree only permit. There's a fly out. It tells you what those things are. Number of trees to be removed, just the one. What type of use is on my property? So I'm answering different questions because this is a different application. One, cabbage, palm, front yard, next to house. Continue. And again, over and over again, all of these the same. So all the DRS applications will look exactly like the building application. You'll have different things that you need to fill in, different application requirements that go along with that. I'm gonna go back here because I think it's better to do this way. But like I said, this isn't the final list of things that are going to be available because this is a test. We're testing everything right now. But the document requirements are based on the record type. So those will change depending on what you select for that. What else, Layla?
I think that was pretty, I pulled permits for, I don't know, Michael responded to that one. I pulled permits for low voltage alarms. Have any of the requirement changed?
But the requirements for most permits have not changed. They just changed from the fact that you're bringing in paper, now you're doing it digitally, applications. So the requirements actually haven't changed. Still requiring either a drawing, by contractor or a signed sealed set up to over $125,000. There is a statutory change for that, going through that we're looking at, so that's a little different. But as far as most permits, the requirements haven't changed. You're going to see documents required up front that you may not have seen before, which is because we've been asking for them later on. But the requirements are about the same.
that on here
Thank
just to find it.
Electrical permit, commercial. And you have to scroll up. There you go. So of course, if you do private provider, then plan, sign and seal by contractor. If they're not over 125,000, they're over 125,000 will be a signed sealed.
So unless there's a Florida statute change of the required
Change.
documents, we'll have to follow that. But otherwise, it's the same as what we've already done.
Another one that we mentioned, somebody was asking that they came in through an invite for the next training. If they create a portal account, will they be on our contact list for future invites? And the answer is yes. Michelle shared that in the chat that we pulled from that information to send the invites for our next training. Another question that came through was about do they have to submit the building plans and the site plans together? And I responded, no. The building plans is a separate permit application. The site plan is a separate record application. We highly recommend that you wait for the site plan to be approved before submitting your building plans for review, as things during site review may change and may impact what the building plans will look like. And that's our recommendation on that.
Gonna go back and find the list of questions that people submitted as part of their.
Yes. And Michelle asked to all participants, if you did not register and receive our email and invites directly, please put your names in the chat so that way she can add you up to that list. And Michael has put the links for the YouTube videos and the instructions also in the chat, a quick way to go there. And then I think we are going to send a link to this training video and those link as well, right, to the group?
Mhm.
Or I think.
I'm just reading through what was sent in as part of the sign up. Just a couple of specific things. Do we sign and seal entire plan set or individual sheets? The way that it goes through Adobe is you seal the entire plan set, not just the individual sheets. So that's why it's important if you've got different licensed professionals working on different disciplines, they could be submitted as different PDF files. Name them appropriately, and make sure they don't use the same sheet numbering system. And again, we'll have that recommended one to put up on the website for that. So they would seal their portion of the plan set, and then they could be uploaded as separate documents. I don't know that you could actually physically put those PDFs together. But you may want to review Adobe's abilities as far as that goes. What used to be known as over-the-counter permits. Over-the-counter permits are the express permits that we've been doing since we went live with Acela, with a couple of changes here and there. Florida statutes changed our things sometimes. So those are still available. Let's see, basic step-by-step direction, how revisions will be handled. We did that. Single circuit permits, that's the same thing as our express permits. Those will be handled the same way. Patios, driveways, right-of-way permitting, it's exactly the same thing. Again, the custom fields change, the data entry that you do up front changes, but the plans are the plans are the plans. They're going to have different requirements for telecoms and things like that. I think they're required to have signed and sealed sets of plans, whereas a homeowner or a permit runner doing a brick paver or concrete driveway won't require signed and sealed plans. So again, the scope of work determines what is required, but the plan room is the plan room is the plan room. And I think that answers pretty well all the questions or all of the things that wanted to be addressed when people were signing up. And we're 15 minutes early.
Because the customer called regarding window and door permit applications. What is changing? That is still an express permit at this time. There's conversation to move it, but at this time it still will be an express permit and runs the same process it is right now. I will just like to add, I know as we get into new systems, just one of the biggest thing we really tell our customers is when you're having system issues, make sure that you're clearing your cache, you're clearing your browser as we upload and download new updates to the system. So that's one of the two primary things that we find people have issues with the system is because they're not clearing their cache and their browsers and logging into the system and out of the system. So that's the best advice I can give you when it comes to going to Excella. If a permit goes to a different municipality as paper plans, should we still submit our permit to Pinellas County along it once approved by the Safety Harbor? Yes, you will be required. The interlocal process does not change. You submit what you need to submit to each municipality to get their approval letter. When you come to us, you will submit that approval letter as part of your package with the digitally signed plans uploaded.
And we've already notified all the municipalities that we are going live with this, so they know it's coming. We've strongly suggested that they start digitalizing all of their application process, including, the approval letter, so that it makes all of your lives easier, especially, but makes everybody's life easier. If we could get every single one of them as reviewers into the system, we would do that. We're not ready for that yet, but that may come in the future. So they're aware of it, and hopefully they'll be moving to electronic as well.
Great questions. Any other questions? Think we're good?
I think we have it.
Thank you, everybody, for attending. We got one latecomer. On driveway replacements, for example, we removed the concrete installed pavers. This typically has more than one permit. Right-of-way zoning, will there be which permit we should apply first? Yes, zoning is always the starting point when it comes to driveways or pavers or slabs or anything like that. You need to start with a zoning clearance, and then you would do the same thing. You would upload your right-of-way application, and you would upload your habitat application as part of those required part of those permit package, and it will get routed through the appropriate reviewers.
Yeah, right. Like we do right now, we will create whatever adjacent applications need to be done that go along with the initial submittal. So we know which ones need what. So we will be creating those. It's a future project to sort of integrate all of those things together, so that they're managed a little bit easier and a little bit better for everybody. But we'll do the same process that we do right now. It comes in. Zoning starts it, and then it gets moved to the correct people, and then the other applications come along with that.
Now, you will notice if you try to apply for a zoning clearance and that driveway is not in our jurisdiction, so you may not be able to, get through the zoning process. It might be where it's our jurisdiction for the private property, but may not be, but that's information that we will relate to you. So always, my biggest advice is always check jurisdiction. And as you can see on the system, we have created a link that takes you right to the property appraiser. And the best way to create any records is we do prefer parcels. Parcels seem to give you a better return on when you're trying to search for stuff instead of the address, because there's parcels that may have multiple addresses. So we always say start with the parcel.
So thank you again
and-
for everyone for spending your time.
And
Michelle
Michelle
says,
said that she will follow up with a link to the video of this webinar and the video library and a quick survey to collect your feedback. And of course, any additional questions after you log out, you think of anything else, please make sure to email us and we will try to respond to your questions. Thank you, Dane.
thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your morning and enjoy an early lunch.
Bye.